Oh, Jesus Christ, chat. It's fucking Monday again. Why must we suffer? Why must we suffer so? Excuse me, I'm just gonna... Mother...
Making a mother of all omelets here, Jack. Can't spread over every egg.
I'm just gonna be down here and it's fine. Alright. Hi, chat. Welcome to the show. I'm really tired. I thought I was already here. I feel like I'm here. Welcome to Texas, baby. Welcome to Texas. Oh, why didn't that? Oh, there it is. Okay, it was just delayed. Bitch. Bitch. No, Worm, we haven't had chat. We've been had. We'll have Worm later. We'll have Worm later. Just let me have some floor time. Anyway, okay, let's fucking get up. Hi, chat. It is another day in paradise, as they say. All right, hold on. Where's my fucking? I don't feel like I'm in the right place. So okay, I was barely off the right place. Worm, which variety? Earth, brain, or we're a heartworm. We're a heartworm. We're gonna multiply and eventually take over your heart until it's nothing but like hundreds of worms occupying the space that was your heart. But welcome in, guys. How's your weekend go? How did your weekend go? What trouble did you get into? What shenanigans were you up to? Oh, Jesus, Jay. Thank you for the 20 stream streak. Not 10, 20 stream streak. Oh my God, Ordain. It doesn't feel like I've been here that long. I mean, 20 streams is... What the fuck? Hold on. Why am I getting a phone call? Okay, I'm so sorry to do that, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Quick burn it all. All right. Sorry, somebody was upset and I had to go wake somebody else up. So shit happens. Shit happens. I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. Evil Within 66. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. And y'all immediately go to setting shit on fire. I'm gone for 20 seconds. 20 seconds. And y'all start trying to burn shit down. Ring, ring, ring the Marin phone. All right. Da-da-da. Even if you were a heartworm because you're the closest to my heart, I live in your heart. I live here forever. It belongs to me. It's mine now. This is my heart. Oh my goodness. The thing? Thing? What? Does that say 365 stream streak? What the fuck, Carrie? Oh, hi, Coco. Who the fuck did you get in here? Okay, hold on. I just looked over. You left me unsupervised. You know what happens when I'm alone? The voices come back. Is that it? Is that what we're doing here? The quotes be like, what happened? What did I miss? I'm still concerned by what Sunstar is doing with the smugs. What did I miss? What happened? Missing the thing? Promise the worm and not provide. We'll get to HeartWorm later. I still want to chat with y'all even though I'm late. At least to like 1:30. Favorite flavor of apple? Ordained became less feral upon observation. Yeah, Schrodinger's. Schrodinger's Ordain. It's like the quantum superposition. You only know the position of Ordain when you're staring at him. Any other times when he's not being observed, he could be literally anywhere. Did someone ring the Ordinkster? Not the Ordinkster. Oh my god, we're bringing back fucking Spy Kids lingo. Okay, had to drink some water. Ordain's in the walls. Probably. Oh my goodness. Ordain is the walls. Ordain is definitely not the walls. I may have an Ordain wall made out of various corpses of Ordain that I just keep cloning. But that doesn't mean he's every wall. But so I need to catch up on a little bit of news today. Weirdly enough, today when I went to the gym, I usually get to see like Fox News and CNN like side by side on the TVs. But for some reason today, the entire time I was at the gym, it was literally frozen. Every CNN TV in the gym was frozen on like an interview with a band guy, an old man. Something rats, something city rats. I can't remember what it was, but I remember seeing it was just frozen there, literally from when I got there till when I left. So I couldn't see what like the comparison thing was. Both sides of the shit. Yep. Precisely. Like the walls being made of titans. Do you mean the celestial wall, the like edge of the universe that's made out of celestials from Marvel? I thought you meant the Disney movie. No, it was a band. I'm pretty sure he was supposed to be like the singer of a band. No worse, Attack on Titans. Oh, gotcha. Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. No, not like that. It's more like they're stapled together, like squirrel stapler style. But yeah, that was I couldn't without having both of them to balance each other out. I couldn't be fucked to stare at what Fox News was talking about. So I just didn't look at news the whole time I was there. Hold on. Fucking links. Where are you? Are you here? Answer the question. I don't have a gun that I can pick up. Son of a bitch. What am I going to do with myself? I have no gun. And I must shoot. All right. New and aggravating days, or is that ways to remove all my free time and force me to help with the stupid fucking grill? Go check every 10 minutes. Maybe don't grill on a fucking Monday when you're not there to check it. Links like responded to the fucking the thumbnail post. Oh, worm. You know how like people say like, oh, word, and then fucking Zoomers started saying worm. That shit drives me up the wall because it sounds absolutely stupid. I don't understand it. Oh, worm. Just say word, dude. Just say word. Be special. She loses her gun. No, my gun. But at least they're on the wall. They're back there. They're right on the wall. Mirror does not worm. Damn. I'm better than a worm. I'm way better than a worm. Butts. Do we want to check? Oh my. Sorry, I refreshed the page and then just saw somebody's new character, a character sheet. Question mark. But I don't know if anybody's seen the news. Apparently Texas state Democrat representatives are fleeing the state in order to, well, hopefully guarantee the inability of the Republicans to forcibly gerrymander redistricting. So for anybody who doesn't know, in the United States, redistricting is only done every 10 years on the decade. So 2000, 2010, 2020, because it's based off of census data. However, this is insane. The Republicans, and Trump more specifically, is claiming that because they're changing the things that count for like census data counting, they're like, yeah, then that means Texas's districts are rigged. Therefore, we have to redraw them, y'all. We have to redraw them, even though Republicans are still the political majority in Texas by a significant number. I don't even mean by like 42+% of Texans voted for Democrats last election cycle. And it's something like, I think it's like 82% of like the delegates in the US in politics are Republican. So they already fucking have the, what's the word? Gerrymandered advantage? I'm just going to call it that. We're going to go with gerrymandered advantage. Bless the Merit in her raids. Wait, what's that? Shy Marloon. I don't know what that's from. The guns are back there on the wall. The wall made from Mordain. I didn't say this wall was made from Mordain. Shush. Shh. Don't need to worry about it. Don't need to worry about it. It's actually the wall on the other side of the camera. It's behind the camera that's made out of stapled Ordains. I still haven't seen the new Dune movies. Someday I'm probably gonna watch the new Dune movies, but it feels like one of those things that like I dedicate an entire fucking day to. A lazy day on a couch with a lot of food and maybe some friends. People complaining about a certain thing are actually the ones doing the certain thing. Always. The thing is though, is it just goes from being, I think it's from, oh, hold on, let me find the old map. I have what's supposedly the new map they want to change the districts to. Texas voting districts. Current districts. From TexasRedistricting.com. Map? Statewide map? Okay, hold on. Move you over here. Okay, this is weirdly done. I'm trying to figure out some of the stuff that I'm looking at. What the shit is that? Okay, hold on. I gotta show y'all this because this looks insane. Let me see real quick. Let me... Third called session. Plans effective January 2023. 31 state Senate districts. Each district has an ideal 2020 census population of 940,000 each district? Okay, hold on. So, can I get a little more zoom out? So I don't have to do like this little bit of scrolling. All right, screen time. Screen time, kiddos. If you want to see what fucking heinous shit gerrymandered districts look like, so this is Alvarado, Cook, Houston. This is Houston. This is what Houston's districts look like. Why? Why? Fuck that shit, dude. It's not even Swiss cheese. It's a map. It's a fucking map of Houston and its districts, apparently. And then this is Bexar County. So this is like San Antonio. Yeah, this is Bexar County. So this is San Antonio, which is so like the light gray, if I remember correctly, the light gray lines are the actual like county lines. The dark black ones are the district lines. I know that for sure. This is Austin. Has this weird fucking cutout, dude. Okay. And this is Dallas Fort Worth. This is the DFW area. What is this? Okay, so look at Johnson 16 in the center. It like gangles to the right, straight through downtown, and then takes up all this? Why does it squiggle north and then come back downtown and then squiggle west? Fucking drunk Republicans is my only guess. But these are the major cities, because again, these are apparently divided by population of like 940,000 or so. So you can also kind of see them on this map. So let's zoom in on DFW. Look at that shit. Why? The thing is they have to do shit like this, because if they don't, and they just instead like basically did like how these are all districted into squares, or like the counties are, these are counties, then it would be too easy. They wouldn't stand as big of a chance. The Democrat voting population would be spread over enough areas that they could get more Democratic seats than they have had in recent precedents. I do have a picture of supposedly this is what they want to turn it into. They want to rework it so that there's basically only a single Democrat district per major city. This is not a very good picture. This seems like something that was like cut out of something else. But those tiny blue districts, El Paso in the west, that's San Antonio. No, that's Austin, then San Antonio. Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and then Dallas. The like southern side of Dallas, Fort Worth. It's also, hi Serps. Speaking of Texans who were fed up. Also, there's fucking Link's chat. Get that bitch. He's the one who said "oh worm" to me. Someone went to town on an Etch-a-Sketch and called it a night, just twisted the knobs over and over. Scared of losing the next election, they're forcing the redistrict on a non-census. You're correct. It's because they're trying to push the idea that the last census was rigged because they counted illegal immigrants. Even though, yeah, technically that's true, but you disclose your citizenship status on a census. And it's important to understand who all is in a state when you do a census. It's not confusing. Hi, Retain. What are you confused about? What is the Dutch confused about? But yeah, this was the texasredistricting.gov page that I looked at to get this map. You also have the option to like get like specific districts if you wanted to. Interactive map. Ooh. Ooh. And the thing is too, is because it's based on populations, you end up in like the lower populated places, like, load, damn you. All of the West End, including El Paso, is just this huge 29th district. And what they want to do is they want to cut El Paso out. They want to cut El Paso to just be a single Democratic district instead of this big major region. Which again, has no precedent. It doesn't follow population lines. It doesn't follow anything. They want to be able to draw them arbitrarily. Like, again, here's San Antonio. This weird one in the middle, and this larger one that reaches all the way to the Guadalupe and then curves around southern San Antonio. I don't remember for sure. Serps may know this better than I do. Serps, isn't southern San Antonio mostly Hispanic? Isn't it? I could be wrong. I could be misremembering. Because I'm pretty sure this district, this 26th district, is mostly like the white suburbs. Yes? Okay, I'm glad I remembered that right. I have family in San Antonio and I used to visit a lot. And they live in that 26th district. So it's all the gated communities up there. West Side and Deep East, yeah. And then we can, oh, I hate that. Oh, what are you? Why is there a snake here? Who put a snake in Houston? That's insane. That's fucking insane. Along I-10 is the bougie area? Yep. Yep. Is this the proposed? No, this is the current. It's already fucked. They just want to fuck it more. All right. Talking about districts, why does this make me think of Hunger Games? Where do you think they got the idea for Hunger Games? Yeah. Anywho, wait, are you telling me Capital City is that Salt Lake? Is the capital city in the Hunger Games? Oh my God. Is the regime in the Hunger Games a Mormon regime? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Some of these maps are so weird, dude. Like, they don't make much sense. That's Utah, right? No, it's not. No, it's not. That's Wyoming. Wait, what? It's in Wyoming? This map has the capital in Wyoming? It's like the tri-state area of like Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. But that's Salt Lake City. That fucking corner grabs Salt Lake City. That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. All right. I'm going to close the Twitter homepage because I don't know what's open on it and I don't want to accidentally click into it. Speaking of Houston, I'm driving through this Thursday. Lamau, I'm so sorry. Finally, Mexico. Hey, listen, we could talk about like, let's see, República de Texas. Images, give me the map. Ah, yes. That's a shit map, dude. This one. Yeah, this will do. Say hello to the largest disputed area that Texas ever had. Speaking of Houston, I'm driving. It's a work thing. I know it's a work thing. Again, I'm so sorry. I get to climb on the roof? The roof of what? In the Texas heat. In August. There's just Mexico. Well, the other one was Canada. But yeah, this was the largest Texas ever was. In place, yeah, here it is. Claimed by Mexico and Texas. Mainly because Mexicans already lived here. This was like as high up as Mexico went. All the way up past Nevada and Utah. Has anybody seen maps with the Gulf of America on them? I have not. Please tell me they're not actually printing those. I'm begging you. Please tell me they're not actually printing those. But yeah, don't worry. República de Texas does not exist again, aka the Texas Republic. Although sometimes I kind of wish, but I know if I say that, we're gonna end up with not what was it? We're gonna end up with not a like socialist republic. We're gonna end up with like a totalitarian republic with fucking Abbott in control, more than likely. On stream, we don't want to see people's goon history. I know. That's why I said I was going to close it. That's why I closed it. It was originally way over here in the top left. Who's we? Don't let me in with you, berserk, you fucking dork. I think it's an industrial warehouse. Okay, so it's at least probably going to be a flat roof. Wait, what does that have to do with your job again? I'm confused. Why do you have to get on top? Like, is this more bats? Oh, are you doing more bats? Bats would be pretty cool. I would not doubt if it has to do with bats. But yeah, you can see the larger districts is basically where less people live per like, what is it? Per county. And then you get into the cities and there's just a jumble. There's just a fucking jumble of them. It's not smart to tell the feds about your concrete boot hobby. It's fine. It's fine. Be solved if we took Governor Hot Wheels and pushed him off the steps of the Capitol building. It'd be pretty funny. It would be pretty funny. As a meme. As a meme, kids. All right. We'll put that away for a second. And then we need... I want to look at the other things. So I had a couple other things open. Oh, I was explaining the Democrats that were leaving the state. So their essential goal is to force the session to essentially not be able to continue. So they can't vote on the stupidest shit redistricting thing. So I think it's something like 51 Democrats representatives just hopped on planes and flew to, I think, was it Illinois? I think the Illinois governor was the one who said they would take them to prevent and like keep them from being like forced to go back. Unfortunately, no bats. Property condition. Oh, has a goon history? Meh. I'm well acquainted with cement and barrels. Don't look up Lake Mead. Whatever you do, do not look up Lake Mead. The Great Khan shelters refugees from the Texas oligarchy. Wait, is his last name Khan? Is it? Illinois governor. Nah, J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker. He's a big dude. Good lord. The picture that Google brings up immediately for him is not very flattering compared to his other pictures literally right below. He look like he's sweating it out in that Google picture. The Great Khan. Oh, why? That's interesting. Yeah, only Ted Cruz is allowed to do that. I'm sorry. All right, what is this? Huh? Trump ties disaster funds to Israel stance. The Trump administration has linked $1.9 billion in federal disaster preparedness funds to states and cities rejecting boycotts of Israeli companies. This policy, announced by the Federal Emergency Management Agency on August 4th, 2025, today, requires recipients to certify that will not sever commercial relations with Israeli firms. The funds support essential services such as search and rescue equipment and emergency management. Wow, they are really butthurt that people are exercising their right to the dollar. It's kind of pathetic. Don't leave Texas, please. I need people to pretend it's still not a third world country with blackouts. Please, no, wait, guys, you don't understand. If the world finds out about us, they're going to find out that our country's just 50 third world countries shoved together. My bad. It's a burb. It's a burb. But, oh my God. All right, let me see if I can find a full article on this. Most of these are just summarized. Denying American victims of natural disasters aid if they are insufficiently supportive of Israel. Absolute insanity. The thing is, oh God damn it, what was the name? Project Agatha? Project, I don't think it was Agatha. No, it was something Project. I'm trying to find, there's another Heritage Foundation project that essentially basically criminalizes hating Israel. Esther, there it is, Project Esther. Project Esther. Now, of course, they're going to word it as, quote, Project Esther, a national strategy to combat anti-Semitism. Chat, if you want to see what I'm about to fucking read parts of, I'm so sorry, God forgive me. This is directly off the Heritage Foundation's page, the same group that made Project 2025. Now, I've read parts of this already, as well as seen multiple synopses on this thing. If you want a really quick rundown, it basically takes the guise of claiming anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and is anti-American, and therefore means that any organization that is even provably to any degree against Israel as a country is therefore an illegal corporation, group, anything of the sort. They have a terminology in here. Let me see if I can find it. This is what they wanted to call it. Global Hamas Support Network, aka HSN. This is just some of their key takeaways. Thank God that they actually do it. Hi, Wolf Pie. How are you doing? How these people? Oh yeah, the thing is, they don't actually. Again, this is the what do you call it? This is the Trojan horse. This is a Trojan horse for them to essentially try and be able to control the narrative. Fucking defined illegal. That's what they want to do. It's defined by law. If it's legal or illegal, that doesn't mean it's moral or immoral. But they want to define it as illegal. Supported by activists and funders dedicated to destroying capitalism and democracy. The HSN benefits from the support and training of America's overseas enemies. The National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism intends to enlist partners in a coordinated effort to combat the scourge of anti-Semitism in the United States. The thing is, though, is they claim anything, absolutely anything that is against Israel is immediately anti-Semitic. Full on. Yes, that's why they're using the name from the Book of Esther. Cool. Okay. But I want to find... Named after the historic Jewish heroine who saved the Jews from genocide in ancient Persia, Project Esther provides a blueprint to counter anti-Semitism in the United States and ensure the security and prosperity of all Americans. Hamas's October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack on Israel laid bare existing anti-Semitism across the world, including the United States. Whose attack? Whose attack? I don't really like marshmallows. Go straight to jail. Don't collect $200. Well, this isn't even something like that. This is, yeah, I don't really support a regime that's literally genociding an entire ethnic group on land that doesn't belong to them. Oh, okay, you're going to jail. That's it. Actually, I forget if this thing calls for jail or deportation. I don't remember which. We'll see. The virulently anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and anti-American groups comprising the so-called pro-Palestinian movement. Also, they will use so-called in things like this all the time in an attempt to basically be like, they don't actually care. They're just racist. Again, pointing one finger forward is four pointing back. But, you know. For those who 100% agree with the president, what do you mean by exactly like North Korea? Huh? Pro-Palestinian movement inside the United States are exclusively pro-Palestinian and more so pro-Hamas. Okay, on what grounds? They're part of a highly organized global Hamas support network. Again, these people can't fathom. We're actually going to scroll in a little bit. That's a little bit better. People like this can't fathom. It's the same thing whenever leftists gather. Get that shit out of here. When leftists get together and they do protests and stuff, and they're like, those people are definitely being paid by George Soros. It's because they can't fathom people actually caring. People actually putting in work for the things that they believe in. Conjure up a somewhat catchy acronym anymore. Hey, listen, they came up with Esther. At least it's not Project 2025, just named after a year. Yeah, like the Antifa stuff back when the the George Floyd riots were going on, and fucking Republican news networks were all over the place trying to be like, it's Antifa, they're violent, they're burning buildings down, they're breaking windows with bricks. Who put the bricks outside the police station? I remember there was a city in the north, was it Philadelphia? That people started recording because one morning when they showed up for their protest, there were pallets of bricks outside of one of the police precincts. And everybody was recording them and was like, do not touch those fucking bricks. Do not touch those fucking bricks. Because they were like 99% sure they were literally just entrapment. Like the police themselves put them there to try and like get people to engage in vandalism. But I remember seeing all the videos of people with their phones out just being like, don't touch those things. I remember one where it's like a girl like grabs a guy who goes to pick up a brick, is like, do not touch this, like slaps it out of his hand. I could be misremembering the city, but I can still picture the video. Political discourse in America, just another day in this fuck country. It never ends. It never ends. Again, though, they're making something up throughout this whole article and then making it their bad guy, which is, again, this highly organized global Hamas support network, or HSN, which they're also coining here, mind you, and therefore effectively a terrorist support network. Current situation, the HSN's strategic purpose inside the United States is to generate internal political pressure to compel the United States government to change its longstanding policy of support for Israel. Within the United States, HSN receives the indisputable support of a vast network of activists and funders with its much more ambitious, insidious goal, the destruction of capitalism and democracy. I mean... version of 1930s Germany, yeah. I mean, I'd be okay with it. Maybe a different kind of democracy. Maybe direct democracy. We live in the age of technology, people. We could have direct democracy and everybody just gets to vote on their phones. Everything in the world is connected to the digital age, so it's all terrorists. They're all terrorists, every single one of them. Because I said so. Okay, Heritage Foundation. As their ends line, the HSN and its nihilist supporters, oh yes, because they want the destruction of capitalism and democracy, therefore they're nihilists. Those are two completely separate things. I've seen crypto bros be more nihilist than anybody else. Supporters indoctrinate the gullible into supporting Hamas and hating Israel to create the street mayhem that serves their end. The network is nominally American, but benefits from the support and training of America's overseas enemies. Its members hope to achieve their goals by taking advantage of our open society, corrupting our education system, leveraging the American media, co-opting the federal government, and relying on the American Jewish community's complacency. I don't like that wording. Are they? I hope it doesn't. It's because to me it sounds like that weird statement seems to me like a grown adult like grabbing a child and being like, they don't know better. You can't say that around them. You can't do that. They're immature and can't understand these arguments that you're yelling at them. And it's like, huh? What? Claiming a demographic is fragile and weak and necessary of protection? Or like advanced protection, I think is the word I'm looking for. The global communist conspiracy. The NWO, the global Hamas network. Oh, Christ. All right. Mission statement. Oh, no. The National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism leads a coalition to dismantle the infrastructure that sustains the HSN and associated movements, anti-Semitic violence inside the United States of America within 12 to 24 months to restore equal protection under a law for all Americans. Hold on. I want to see where they list, where was it? This task force. Does this already exist? That's a... there it is. Came out in February. Okay. Okay, so it exists now. Okay. Straight up covering their ears and screaming, la 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 la. Not understanding the arguments of the pub. Always. They never want to understand any arguments. Now give me your source. Yeah, I need your source. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't this have been unthinkable like around 9/11? Because like most Americans were like any Muslim person was a terrorist, but now because the orange man has what I believe to be a massive gain by doing this, the general public kind of hand waves again. I may be wrong, but I'm not sure. No, you're pretty close. You're kind of nailing it. But I wanted to find, oh, here it is. Guide coalition members toward thematically grouped, distinct, but mutually supportive lines of effort, LOEs, described in the accompanying campaign plan that integrates to varying degrees the following methods. Expose the critical resources fueling anti-Semitism. Gain a comprehensive understanding of the infrastructure that sustains individuals and organizations supporting Hamas. They're going to get so upset when they realize that it's like private donors. Grammatically Groot. For us to bully it? Oh my god, do we get to start making the same kind of like ATF jokes and stuff? Oh god. Oh god, I can't say that. I can't say what I was gonna say. I was trying to think the equivalent of the ATF shot my dog joke. And I didn't like where my brain went with it. I did not like where my brain went with it. Oh no! Oh my god, a year. Holy shit, bud. Wait, really? Interesting. Think of Coco's safety? No, I don't think this task force would shoot a dog. I was thinking they would shoot someone else. But I don't know. I don't know what exactly it would be. I'm also half thinking of the oh my god, ordain! That's 2 years and agreed. Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, 2 years completely. Okay, it was resub for 12 months of tier 1. Okay, I gotcha. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's been longer than a year. Bazant. Oh, and Kohi. Oh, shit. Hype train. Oh, shit, I didn't even realize it was a hype train for a second. All right, hold on. Mobilize a coalition of private organizations. Yay, private companies. Great. Build and coordinate the efforts and activities of private organizations in the US to achieve combined efforts. So you want to make private corporations and companies that you can essentially get the government to force to do things? Are y'all going to be the ones making these companies and benefiting from these government contracts? Erode support for anti-Semitism. Exploit fissures within and among anti-Semites and affiliated organizations and their target audiences. Huh? Fishers. Are they gonna get upset when they find out that most anti-Semitic groups are like far right nationalists and stuff? Well, I guess it would make sense that their guys were already in there. I guess that makes sense. Guys, you're already in the group. Just figure out what buttons to push to make them implode. Just make fun of their receding hairlines or something. I'm sure that'll get them. And the government entirely at this point. Oh, correct. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's their goal. Synchronized coalition actions to maximize impact. Again, I don't like where this is going. Orchestrate actions and activities across society in collaboration, where appropriate, with federal and state government to achieve the desired impact and align resources towards priorities. Disrupt and degrade networks and deny them the resources they need to conduct and sustain anti-Semitic behavior. Again, though, this sounds fine. They're constantly using the word anti-Semitics, but remember, in this whole paper, they describe, where is it? They describe anti-Semitism as all of these. Anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and anti-American. If you are any of these things, then you are on the target radius for this project. Where was I? No risks. No, it was here. Communicates. Means organize. Focus a broad correlation of willing and able partners to leverage existing, and if required, work to establish additional authorities, resources, capabilities, and risks. Both in doing nothing and in doing something. If left alone, the HSN, as they call it, had an AI that's going to guess someone's age from what they watch, and if you want to remove it, you need to... How about they fuck off? How about they fuck off? What is up with all of these fucking websites literally just wanting to take your data at this point? Joining forces between state and federal countries to focus on controlling and neutralizing a group of people. Where have I heard this before? Tulsa? Tulsa. Definitely Tulsa. Oh, yes. Now we're finally getting to the other thing. If left alone, the HSN and its affiliated Hamas support organizations, or HSOs, could become irrelevant or discredit themselves although current trends and geopolitical conditions do not support this conclusion. At the same time, if Project Esther succeeds, it could reinforce a blood libel narrative. Huh? Lending credence to an HSN blame the Jews mantra and what? An expanded anti-Semitism? It is therefore incumbent upon us to integrate measures to mitigate the negative consequences that would result from success. Oh, because your data is valuable, your data can be sold for goods and profits. Correct. Dystopian novel. Do they think they're the heroes in? Oh, extremely dystopian novel. Yes. Yes. The silent majority. I'm trying to remember what year the silent majority came out. Was it the 60s? I think it was the 60s. Thank you guys for the hype train, by the way. Oh shit, I got another hype chest. I thought I'd gotten all the more recent ones. Oh, it's cute. Let me sell that shit myself. If anybody doesn't know the silent majority, it is essentially what far right-wing people started calling themselves in the 60s. God, I wish they were silent. I wish they would shut the fuck up. But no. It's essentially a narrative to pitch themselves as a majority that has all throughout American history remained silent, as opposed to the last 60 years, 60 plus years. Never shut the fuck up. For ritual murder? Pretty close, yeah. Pretty close. Is too often irrelevant between elections. Okay. It must break its silence and speak. In a democracy, the silent majority must be heard to have an effect lest a louder, more vocal minority unjustly control the narrative and generate a distorted perception of political legitimacy. Also, you can't go telling Republicans that they actually are, based on the numbers, the minority political party, because then they get upset, even though that's true. Anti-Americanism is akin to anti-Semitism. It's just going to make it easier for conspiracy theory Nazis to delusionally prove their points. So we cannot let anti-American refer to anti-Semitism. It helps the actual anti-Semites. Yep. Well, in this thing, they're claiming that anti-Semitism is anti-American, which I agree, but it's the direction that they're going. I think the weirdest way to put it, like, in what, like, God, anti-American, pro-American, whatever it is, basically since the fucking Cold War, they've always been trying to define what is an American, what's anti-American, what's not American. The weirdest way to put it is, I think the only thing that I could call, let me see, where is it? Let me put this away real quick. I need to find this poster. Ah, here it is. Here it is. This poster. This Superman poster. Is it? Remember, boys and girls, your school, like our country, is made up of Americans of many different races, religions, and national origins. So, if you hear anybody talk against your schoolmate or anyone else because of his religion, race, or national origin, don't wait. Tell him that kind of talk is un-American. Keep your school all American. I gotta say, this is the only propaganda I like. Good Superman propaganda. Yeah, silent my ass. Damn, I wish y'all were silent. Damn, I wish y'all would shut the fuck up. Or another for decades. Yeah, and it's weird to say that, like, too often irrelevant between elections, especially considering they're often the ones raising hell between elections. Let me see here. More. Okay, that's we intend to help America's silent majority recover its voice and convert its words into actions to render impotent an illegitimate, hateful minority that threatens America's soul. Silent is the new loud, yeah. Purpose, provide a strategic blueprint to all Americans who are willing to counter anti-Semitism in the United States so that they can protect not only Jewry? Jewry? I don't like that. I don't like that. That doesn't feel right. Loud Hill win? Loud Hill. Is that what I have never heard any person. Maybe people use this term. I don't know. This is the first time I've fucking heard this. It feels wrong. It feels like a cattle term. I don't know. It feels like you're talking down to someone. Oh, thank you. That's not a word? Okay. Hold on. I'm curious. I'm going to Google it. I'm kind of scared. Jewish people collectively, or a Jewish quarter in a town or city. Is the word Jewry considered anti-Semitic / Judaism? Criminality or some other intentionally offensive way than it is? Okay, that makes sense. I've never seen anybody. Why did they choose this terminology? I don't understand. Okay, but the sanctity of the core values derived from our founding documents that ensure the security and prosperity of all Americans. Again, though, you're also trying to use this document to define what is and isn't American. Rekindled for decades before October 7th, 2023. Of course it has. It's been going on since 48. By the promotion of a view that reduces all human interaction to a heroic struggle between the oppressed and their oppressors? Huh? Because they racist? Yeah. Oh yeah, almost for sure. But it's weird that it shows that. Oh no. Okay, I want to get to that. I want to know what that has to say. The victim status of the oppressed in this view grants them license to pursue any course of action. Jews, Israelis, and all proud Americans in this case have been cast in the role of implacable oppressors, and the Palestinians, Arab, or Muslim in the role of their victims. One of these things is not like the other. Well, two of these things. It's this one. This one. But, like, I mean, yeah, if we're talking the Middle East, yeah, kinda, dude. Yeah, kinda. Israel and America going in places they don't own and doesn't belong to them, and kind of just glumping around taking what they want. Okay. I'm just trying to make it to my next paycheck. Or fucking relatable. Is to tell Trump to go fuck himself, is to punch a Nazi. Okay, hold on. I want to see this next. While this understanding of history comes straight from the pages of Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. Huh? I don't I don't know about directly, maybe indirectly. Cause it was written in the 1800s. Hi, Stevie. Hi, Cody. Enjoy your season pass. I know, but then the very next one's Mein Kampf. Uh-oh. It can also be traced to Soviet agitprop? What is that? I don't recognize that word. Oh, propaganda. All right, hold on. Get the gay propaganda out. Get the gay propaganda out. They were husbands. All right. All right, chat. We're going to take a brief commercial break. Ooh, are you loading? Oh, it doesn't seem like you're loading. Okay, maybe I need a different link. Oh, yeah, the link's different. All right. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be looking at the propaganda. I'm going to be getting a propaganda at these boys. Ah, fantastic. Oh my god, there's a lesbian version? There's a lesbian version! I don't need propaganda to be gay. True. But scary book, scary. Traced to Soviet agitprop. Again, just say propaganda, dude. And found in Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf and other Nazi propaganda, which portrayed the Jew as the conniving exploiter of the pure and innocent German. I don't believe for a goddamn second that you can claim that the same stuff that is in Mein Kampf is full on in the same light as in the Communist Manifesto. Right? Right? I don't know. That sounds insane comparison. Again, I actually went to the bookstore over the weekend, trying to see if I went to a used bookstore, trying to see if I could find like an old copy of the Communist Manifesto. I'm not gonna lie, I was specifically looking for that, and I didn't find it. I didn't find it. They had their political philosophy books literally in the same section as like fucking like financial help books. So it was a pain to fucking look for stuff. But it was a very cool bookstore. It was a very cool bookstore. Mostly about how all their neighbors are a threat to them because we dare to exist outside of their country. Oh. Maybe? Was it neighbors or was it something else? That's just like me that ask what they're reading. All right. Wait, Ordain was the only one that got one right. What the heck, Chance? What the heck? You only need 7. Oh, goodness. Here, I'm just going to do some quick power reading while we're waiting through this. Wait, what the fuck is this comparison? Hamas's October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack on Israel laid bare this existing and underlying anti-Semitism around the world, including in the United States. The forces that cynically fanned this anti-Semitism exposed by October 7th pounced on Hamas's pogrom? It is not program, it is pogrom. Intending to use it as a George Floyd-style event to spring into center stage and grab a giant microphone, the attack confirmed 2 things. Hamas, a U.S.-designated foreign terrorist organization, FTO, is not a freedom movement. It is a hateful death cult bent on exterminating Jews and destroying their historic homelands? No, it's instead of A, it's another O. It's Pogrom. Again, another word I've never heard used. Hold on, I'm searching that one. Organized massacre of a particular ethnic group, in particular that of Jewish people in Russia and Eastern Europe in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Oh, this is much older. Oh, also a violent riot. Um, Mostly within the Pale of Settlement. Is that a region? Western region of Russian Empire from 1791 to 1917. All right. Puts you away. Yeah, I was reading this. I hadn't heard of this. I had not heard of this. Gave these people a thesaurus? I don't fucking know, dude. I do not fucking know. I want to know the type of person that has this locked and loaded in their arsenal of historic terminology, because I would be a little concerned. I probably, like, honestly, the best way to correlate it to somebody would probably have been, like, just called it, I guess, like another Holocaust or something. That'd be the easiest way to use, like, terminology that everybody knows. It may not be, like, probably the correct word in this case, but it would be the easiest term to get people to understand it. Again, though, if you've known historically a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization, or FTO, that means very fucking little. That means very fucking little, because the United States designates organizations all over the world all the fucking time as terrorist organizations. And like fucking political organizations that just happen to run countries they don't like. They will mark them as terrorist organizations. What's another word for that's not even propaganda. This isn't propaganda. What was the other word for it? What was that other word we got confused by? Oh, right, this one. Jewry. It feels wrong to say Jewry. American Jewry? Why did I slightly roll my tongue on that? Jewry. I hate it. I hate it. But, oh, good lord. Supporters of Palestine and Hamas have claimed for decades that criticizing Israel's policies do not equate to anti-Semitism, are at best insincere. There's the gist of it. They have simply masked their anti-Semitism in a thin veneer of political rhetoric to disguise their true intent, the destruction of the Jewish state of Israel. Okay. Again, a country built on land that didn't belong to them, with no real right to it, besides a story. Okay. Waving their flag and saying, we're not Nazis, you are? That's what it feels like. That's what it fucking feels like. They don't mean it. Everyone's a terrorist but us. They're all immoral, therefore the enemy. Also, U.S. has a leader with confirmed felonies and a history of sexual violence. Well, that's not to mention almost every U.S. president since the invention of the Predator missile has essentially been a war criminal. What's the old, I wouldn't say old. What was the new X-Men? Was it 90s? What was it? Not First Class. What was the new animated series? Was it 90s? It's not this talk. It's the one at 97. That's what it was, not 90s. Again, if y'all haven't seen X-Men 97, that shit is so good. Here, we'll go back. I needs... Oh, that's the speech, but I don't think that's the one I want. I want the Genosha. Am I gonna have to use the dude who's calling it the wokest show ever? No, that's not the one. Fuck it. Fuck it, we ball. That's the meme. I want that meme. Why can't I find that meme? Give me the fucking meme! Why won't you give me the meme? It's a British rule. I may miss not safe for work stuff, but like this seems to be doing hell of a lot better. Factory reset the world already. We advanced too fast and need a do-over. I agree. Damn it. But that's the meme. I want that meme. Where's that fucking meme? Can I just put in meme and find it? No. Oh, there it is. Jesus Christ. There it is. I have to go to somebody's fucking Instagram for it. Christ. Most other nations don't allow a terrorist to be their leader, yet so many allow their leaders to be terrorists. Also, if you've never seen X-Men 97 and you don't know what Magneto sounds like, you need to go watch X-Men 97. Like, even just go to like YouTube and find Magneto monologue. Yeah, this one works. This is the one I was looking for, but oh. There's a minefield there. This isn't Cambodia. I'm not gonna do more of that. But his speeches, he has multiple speeches throughout this series. Magneto is by far the best character in this first season. I don't care what anybody says. Like, they really just gave Magneto the microphone and were like, fucking go, dude. Just go. I wanted the other one, this one. Oh, it skipped. It is always weird sometimes at this point. This is the weird thing about giving Magneto a backstory that he's had basically since his creation. If anyone doesn't know what he's talking about, in his backstory, he went through the Holocaust. He's Jewish. He went through the Holocaust. He survived it. His family didn't. But it's weird because of how old Magneto is in the comics and then how long he's continued as a character. Even though this is supposed to be in 97, that makes him like definitely over 70 years old at this point. But it's even funnier in the comics because he's still relevant. He's a smidge old. He's 110 in the comics. Granted, the X-Men comics has got to throw away what age fucking means because they just get resurrected. They just get resurrected over and over. Even at one point, Charles and Eric get resurrected at like their prime age. There's even a whole arc where Cyclops becomes a kid again, creates like a mini mutant group with Kamala Khan as like a teenager, and then eventually like gets turned back to his original age, but is still like best friends with Kamala. And then that's how you find out that Kamala is also a mutant and an Inhuman, which is, again, a little weird thing to do, but very interesting. To slow his aging. Well, yeah, he does that too. But again, it's also in the current comic books. He is 110 years old and been resurrected like 4 times. And not every time by like the weird tree. Hold on. All right, where's the goopy pages? I need the goopy pages. Let's do Xavier then. Me forgetting how to spell Xavier for a second. Damn it! Oh yes, can't forget that Apocalypse is a good guy now. Can't forget that there was a whole arc where Apocalypse was a good guy. Oh, and of course where Xavier was basically mutant Hitler. Anyway, we're gonna ignore that. We're gonna go read the comics. Go read the comics, kids. It's fine. It's fine. Age doesn't matter in comics. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. All right, so let me bring the music back. Probably gonna be pretty loud, so I'm gonna turn it down a little bit more. Okay. Apocalypse and Juggernaut being good guys blows my mind. Well, I mean, Magic is Juggernaut's sister. So, like, the whole point was essentially, like, at one point he even goes off and he just, like, lives in a field. No, I'm thinking of Colossus. Damn it, never mind. Never mind. Yeah, that was Colossus that went off and lived in a field and is Magic's brother. Yeah. All right. We can stop looking at this because it's moderately depressing. And it's already almost 2. Jesus. We're only going to get like 2 hours of gaming at this rate. Full chat. Full chat. So let me put some of these things away really quick. What was the other thing I had open? Oh, hashtags. That's right. And this is... America Last was Jesus! I'm so glad I closed that. Oh my God, sorry, that was corpses. Oh. And then Big Bird. The era of forcing taxpayers to pay for propaganda is ending. Good riddance. That's a senator talking about Sesame Street. Yeah, that was a corpse. That was indeed a corpse. And there's actually people fucking hating on Big Bird. Oh, okay. I don't like this. Oh, okay. And then there's also an account called Big Bird. That's... $22 count defamation lawsuit on Candace Owens. It's 22 counts. That's fucking crazy. I don't know why that was in here. I do not know why that was in here. Why is... Oh, because the account that posted it is named Big Bird. Okay. Okay. I think I'm good here. I think we're good. I think it's time to go get a distraction. I'm sorry I threw all that on y'all, chat. I'm sorry I threw all that shit on y'all. Is inclusive? Yes. It's also because the current Republicans think... Hold on a second. Okay. The House Republicans consider kindness propaganda and sharing communism. All right, let me get this game up and running. I will also work on changing the category. HeartWorm. Yoink. All right. Well, write this report stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Hi, Dread XP. And then, oh, I already have the audio interface open. I did not need to try and open it again. Game. Okay, it seems to be working. All right, let's swing over to the full screen. Yoink. Well, we don't need our glasses anymore. Oh, what the hell? It just started playing something. And I haven't even got the capture up yet. Cease the music. Turn it up a little bit. Oh, okay. That was just a little extra thing, I guess. Now, where's my mouse? Oh, I don't have a mouse in this game. I'm actually going to kind of turn those down because sometimes they give me a headache. Tutorial on skip doors. We'll go for now. We'll see what that ends up being. Hand controls. I want modern, please and thank you. Turn speed up just a little bit. Always run off. Aimed shoulder. We'll do shoulder. Sound. We'll leave it for now because I can adjust it on my end. And then 60 FPS is totally fine. All right. Yay, indie horror. Hi, Wizluck. Yeah, indie horror. All right. I did not even read the synopsis for this game. I remember being excited for it back when it had like its demo, but oh, okay. This is. No, I want the modern. Also modern. Camera. Okay. And yes, I absolutely want subtitles on. Okay, tell me your secrets. Ooh. Darkness. Clock! Clock! November 5th. Cafe 9. Hey, yo, the tattoo. I have a rose tattoo.
Sorry,
But actually, it's color, but...
I've been busy trying to find out about this place.
Do I need to turn it up, guys? Is a little quiet. This is HeartWorm,
I
Ordain.
believe it myself, but I guess a part of me must because I'm going. It's far.
Obituary, obituary, surrounded by death. Obituary, obituary.
A few miles from that power plant in the mountains. It was hard to find anything about it. I started on message boards and I ended up in a chat room talking with people who know people who know people who've gone.
Okay, I've cranked it up a little bit.
Crazy stuff, but the one thing that they all agreed on is that in that house, there's a room that can take you to the other side to see the people that you lost again. The thing is, no one who's gone has ever come back, and that's why I'm writing you.
Because hell is better than Earth. Everybody knows that. Duh.
To get you to talk me out of going. Actually, by the time you read this, I'll already be there. I just wanted to let you know, in case I don't come back.
I swear. Hey,
That way
spider.
You won't be wondering where I've gone.
Black Widow. That shouldn't be in your
You don't
bedroom.
have to worry about me anymore. I'm sorry, but I don't have any other choice. I just can't keep.
This is already pretty
going on
depressing.
Not knowing.
Is she a teenager? It feels like she's supposed to be a teenager. She sounds young. Here, let me go check the synopsis real quick. Threshold, enter a world born of memories. Defend yourself with a camera while solving death's mysteries in a reverent evolution of 90s survival horror, integrating both fixed camera and over-the-shoulder perspectives. Oh. To be WASD to move, you can run by holding shift while moving forward. If you're using modern controls, you will always run, and the joystick will control your speed depending on how far you push it. Oh, should I be using a joystick? I don't really wanna. Interact with many items in the world by pressing left click. Some will stand out more than others. Okay. Equip or use some items you find, such as your camera. After you pick it up, open your inventory with tabs, select the camera, and then select the equip action. Camera. Take camera. Equip camera. Add mod. I don't need to like reload or anything. Oh. Equip outfits. I get other outfits later? Oh wait, no, I have to do AD. Let's see. Do we have other? Oh. Oh. Some of these look like armor. That other one looked like a veil. That's a bunny suit. That's definitely a bunny suit. A like rat costume. Why are you burning my clock? I only just got it. All right. Actually, hold on. I'm curious. We gotta go this way.
Sometimes I wonder if I
Gotta go
spend
this way.
more
Gotta go
time
this way.
thinking about death than the average person. My grandfather died a while back.
That's fine.
I know it happens to everyone, but it almost feels like I'm obsessed.
No time for
It's
reading? No, we gotta
frustrating.
read.
No matter what I try, my
Down here.
thoughts always circle back to the one thing I can't control. My own mortality. I came
Yeah.
all the way out here.
Don't think
not
about it too
knowing if I'll
hard.
get
Don't
the
think about
answers I
nothingness.
need.
Makes my heart want to
just hope
explode
it's worth
sometimes.
it.
Just goth things. Oh, good lord. I'm mildly concerned about the factory. Oh, I can't go into the grass. I wanted to catch Pokemon in the grass. Weirdly, too, out of like... Is this the house? Pile. Pile of cut wood. Looks like it's been here for years. No, I'm nosy. I'm nosy. This is fixed camera, which makes me think that there's like... Aha! Things and stuff. Pleasure Beach 1? I finally went to explore Pleasure Beach today. It's been on my list forever and the forecast was perfect, but unsurprisingly, I ended up in over my head. When I got there, everything was pretty normal. There were folks on the shore having a picnic, enjoying the beautiful summer day, and the usual kids messing around on the playground across the street. I grabbed my camera, locked my car, and started making my way across the land bridge. It took maybe 30 minutes to cross, longer than I expected. The island seemed to be completely empty, so I began searching through the abandoned homes. Confident in my solitude, so many of them were destroyed, roofs and walls collapsed from years of disregard. Some houses so decrepit I couldn't even enter, but they were just enough left that I began to really feel bad for these people. They had no time to pack and leave. Family photos were strewn across the floors, belongings were still packed in drawers. I even saw a table that looked like it had been set for dinner however many years ago. My sympathy turned into suspicion as I ventured further. Many of the houses had the same red graffiti on their attics, markings and symbols I'd never seen before. I assumed it was just some kids messing around, but something about it began to trigger my paranoia. I noticed the sun was setting as I reached the end of the residential area. It was strange. I could have sworn it had only been a couple of hours. Last time I checked my watch, it was before noon, but now the clock read 7:30 p.m. I brushed it off as just losing track of time. It was frustrating. I hadn't even gotten to half the town, but I knew I had to head back. Landbridge would be submerging soon if it wasn't already. Soon enough as I turned the corner to where I had entered earlier, I was greeted by nothing but the sea. The entire land bridge was underwater. I was stuck and alone, or so I thought. Do we go right into the house, or do I get nosy and go running down this road over here that has road closed, but it's been removed? Ah, damn it, never mind. The bridge is out. This isn't the way I need to go anyway. Darn. Darn. All right, let's check. We'll start left and go right. There's like 3 doors to this house. Well, shit. Worms. Enter the abandoned... Oh, I don't like how dark this is. too dark to see without help. You can use the camera flash without consuming ammo by not aiming and pressing F. Oh, I hate that. Pleasure Beach, too. It was darker than any night I could remember. The island was far enough offshore that there was no light pollution, and in almost no time I was wandering in pitch blackness. It was cold, too. The breeze coming over the water contrasts heavily with the mild weather earlier that day. I didn't have much of a plan, but I knew that if I was stuck, I would have to find a place to stay warm. I made my way back to the houses, which were much more terrifying in the night. I turned to look down the street and froze mid-step. I could barely see due to the lack of light, but it looked like another person was standing there, right in the middle of the street, staring at me, motionless. I tried to rationalize, but in that situation, my sanity was already being tested. I called out to them with a strained, hello? Praying to God that it was just some teenager and not whatever nightmare my mind was conjuring. No response, no movement, nothing. I looked around and noticed some of the windows in the attics of the houses looked like they were dim light coming from them. Candles, maybe? But I'd been there all day. I didn't see anyone. It didn't make any sense. In every possible scenario, none of which seemed to end well for me, raced through my mind, one rational thought broke through and reminded me I had my camera. I could trigger the flash on demand without using the little film I had left to illuminate my surroundings. I was so scared I almost didn't want to, but if there really was something there and using my camera would only alert it to my presence... Finally, I pressed the flash trigger. Everything around me lit up and I saw nothing. The figure in the road was gone. The light coming from the windows, gone. Just a silent, long dead town and me. The rest of the night was uneventful. I used my camera flash to navigate the ruins, found the closest house with 4 intact walls, locked the door to one of the bedrooms, and fell asleep against the wall. I woke up the next morning and booked it back across the land bridge. I don't think I'll go back to Pleasure Beach. There's a light switch. I see you. There's also something on top of... There's a lock here. Hello? Oh. That's a satisfying thunk. Alright. Hello? Hello? Again, there's light switches here. Why can't I turn you on? Faint ticking of a clock on the other side. I swear to God, I'm gonna flash. And... Okay, that's a chandelier. Can I straighten this by chance? Nope. We are not letting this shit go dark. Ain't no way in hell. Because I feel like at some point, I'm gonna flash. Oh! Gorb. Gorb spotted. Can I help you? Can I pick you up? Nope. These fuckers are gonna move, aren't they? Barely held together. I'm not going out there? Okay, we'll go up. Oh! Elisa, February 89, Mary, April 92. Huh. Well, that's Daniel again. Okay, these are repeating patterns. Pretty heavy duty one at that. Okay. Mary's gonna flash. All the flashes. You're all getting flashed. Every single one of you. At some point, I'm going to flash. This one was locked, right? Yeah, that's the one with the clock. That has a lock. And this actually looks like an open door, like right here. Closet full of junk, nothing important. Oh, okay, it's a closet. But with a flash instead of a flashlight? Yeah. Oh. Oh, wait. Trunk. Ah. Here. Oh! Hello? Father's Journal 1. I finally put the pieces together the day you asked me where John was. At first I was confused, thinking maybe you forgot his exact address and wanted to send a letter. I laughed and replied with the address of the home our son had been living in for the past 2 years with his wife and our new grandchild. I won't ever forget the look you gave me. Perplexed and confused, you asked, what is he doing there? When I told you that he moved there for his job, the expression on your face darkened. I could tell that something wasn't adding up for you, but you just slowly shook your head and walked away. How could you forget that? I knew we were both getting on in our years. Forgetting little things was understandable. But we'd gone to meet our granddaughter only months ago. I wanted to believe it was just a momentary confusion. To this day, I still wish I was right. Oh God, please don't have a tiny Alzheimer's backstory. Please don't have a tiny Alzheimer's backstory. Hello? Hey, there's a rat. Are we not gonna talk about the possum on the counter? Anyone? Couldn't pay me to open this fridge? Not my first rodeo? Yeah, that's honestly probably really smart. Giving. Into the fireplace. All right. Bum. That's a nice boot. Also, I just realized I have 13 cigarettes for some reason. Oh, fuck. Selecting an item to review, choose combine from the context menu. Okay. Select a second item to combine it. For example, you can use bandages and antiseptic on their own or combine them to create a first aid kit, which heals for a larger amount. Okay. I mean, we do have that's a VHS over there. I don't want to pick up the VHS. Is there? No, there's no crouch. Hello? Hello? It won't budge. God, this house is huge on the inside. It did not look this big on the outside. This is insane. Hello? Here, rug. Hey, another book. Uh-oh. Father's Journal 2. We went to see a doctor today. At last, it's hard to make it out all the way to the city. When we were younger, it seemed like such a charming idea to have a house so isolated. It was our own little world. Now we're just getting groceries in town as a hassle. Yeah, welcome to the suburbs. I made the appointment and made sure you were ready to go. I could tell you didn't know why we had to. You didn't think anything was wrong. You always had my head in the clouds. I'm fine. You're overreacting. You would tell me over and over. I didn't even want to think about whether you remembered the reason why this was necessary. We're waiting on the scan results now, but based on how you were with the doctor, I'm not hopeful. You had trouble answering his questions and kept looking for me for answers. God, why is this happening so fast? I held your hand over the stick shift as I drove home while you cried softly to yourself. I can't help but hate myself for thinking it, but I think we're so close to the end. How did this happen so quickly? Only months ago, the sounds of your singing filled the house as you tidied up, did the dishes, and cooked us dinner. Now you barely get out of bed. Something inside of you is broken. Half the time you look at me and see a stranger, but you won't acknowledge it. You just turn over in bed and try and go back to sleep. I wonder what you dream of. I hope it's of the last fragments of our beautiful life together. Fuck. Anything else? Can I interact with the fireplace? No. About that red book that seems really obvious for some reason. Oops, the books are destroyed. Okay. Yeah. That is a loud clock. It looks like it would disintegrate if I touched it. Okay, let's go to the other room then. We'll probably also, in a second, I'm going to change the settings to, Jesus, no. Options. Not this. To skip door. caked in years of filth. Mostly intact mirror. Whoa. More meds! That's just, wait, that's not a closet, that's shutters. Okay, also, did anybody notice that toilet seat was wooden? Whew. Can I kick, I want to kick over the cup. We don't need doors where we're going, I suppose. Map. You can access the map from your inventory or by pressing M. New areas you enter are automatically tracked, and you can gauge their level of completion based on the amount of static covering them. If there's still static over the area, there's more to be done there. Okay, yeah, because there was doors that were attached to there. Dining room. Is that where it's telling me we are right now? No, that doesn't seem right. Inactive, exploring, incomplete. Red! First floor. Is inactive the complete part? I guess. So yeah, fireplace, bathroom. So this is where we've been. Okay. Hello? Hello, darkness, my old friend. Hello. Hold on, we'll read that letter in a second. Oh, there's a ladder there. Okay, so we got a lot of things to check out here. Hey, come here. Hi, Connor. How are you doing? A bedroom poem. Only a few days to notice how you used to be. The changes were minor at first. Forgetting your ring, leaving your keys, staring into nothing like you knew it was coming. And I saw it all too late. The bed you were buried in, trying not to be seen. Ghosts in white coats. What a terrible thing. Strangers, goodbyes. Dreams of hearing you sing. The hours burned forever. 12:15. Okay, so we need to find the clock. 12:15, I'm guessing, is the time. Chat, don't let me forget that. All right, let's go check this door first. Locked. Darn, let's go check this ladder. But it won't open. Again, there's VHSs like all over this place. Okay. 12:15, yes. Thank you for the self-care, Petrus. Hello? Locked. Oh, that's not good. This is also not good. A fucking jacuzzi, dude! Uh-oh. I'm alone in this house now. All I have left was the keepsakes of a long life together. Oh, Rose, looking at your young face, smiling and laughing on grainy film is a poison that sours my heart by the day. Seeing you alive, but knowing you are gone is more than I can bear. At least I have our memories. Wait. Rose? Isn't that the wife? Was Rose... Oh, was the whole time... Was it the father this whole time? I think I misread it. It wasn't a journal about the father. It was a journal from the father about his wife. Hello? Well, that looks mildly horrifying. Hello. Yes, hospital equipment. Hey, there's a key. That is a lot of medicine. A key. Nah, man. Am I supposed to have, like... Can I do this? Oh, okay, there we go. That's better. I wonder how many shots the camera can hold at once, if it can hold all 24. I say attic key. Okay, so we'll go check the, that attic key. I'm gonna assume that's either all the way back upstairs past those mannequins, or we're gonna go try... it wasn't here, it was this way. Here. This way. Okay, that's not it. Okay, so I'm thinking it's gonna be the other one. There you are.
Huh. 12:15.
Okay, we're gonna check out this. Oh, I unlocked it. Oh! Okay, this looped back. Nice. I thought it was still loading for a second. I got scared. I don't like how dark that is. Oh. A nice... That's a desk with nearly every inch covered in tapes. How do you shoot so much video? Ooh. 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 Okay, this is kind of neat. Oh no. I don't need to use that right now? Wait, is it gonna be used? Is it for a stat or something? What is it for? All right. Oh, come on. Can I combine it? Well, I literally can't pick this up, so we gotta go figure out the attic keys. Okay. Which was the attic from here? We're in the foyer. So... past here. And then this. Excuse me, pardon me, coming through. Please and thank yous. Attic key. You won't need this anymore, discard it? Yes. Oh. It is not that bright down there. What is that light coming from? The message seems hastily scribbled. If this is real, if this place is what they say it is, I don't even know how I'll feel. Will it answer the questions that I and everyone who has ever lost someone have spent so long asking? And what if it does? Will that change anything? If I don't come back and someone finds this, I tried my best. Here's where we probably need to put the rose pieces. All right. Wait a second. What was over here? Oh, okay, just nasty wall. Okay, so now I can go get the other, that third of the rows, I guess is what that is. Shut up. Fuck you, mannequins. Fuck you, mannequins. Hello, darkness, my old friends. I feel like picking this thing up is gonna start something that I'm not ready to deal with. All right, kids, time for combat to start. kind of scared of all these tapes. Too, because it doesn't seem like we can analyze them in any way. Okay. So there's still static here, but we haven't got the other doors. We haven't done this one because it has the lock on it. We haven't done this door. Have we found our, what is, there's that possum again. I see your ass. Oh, wait. Oh, shit. We gotta go back to the kitchen. What do you call a worm living in a VHS? That's a good fucking question. Herman Hesse, narcissist and Goldman. He thought that almond trickled away, changing constantly until they finally dissolved, while the artist created images remained unchangeably the same. He thought that the fear of death was perhaps the root of all art, perhaps also of all things of the mind. We fear death, we shudder at life's instability, we grieve to see flowers wilt again and again, and the leaves fall. And in our hearts, we know that we too are transitory and will search for laws and formulate thoughts. It is in order to salvage something from the great dance of death, to make something that lasts longer than we do. Perhaps the woman... Wait a second. Okay. Perhaps the woman after whom the master shaped his beautiful Madonna is already wilted or dead, and soon he too will be dead. Others will live in his house and eat at his table, but his work will still be standing hundreds of years from now and longer. It will go on shimmering in the quiet cloister church, unchangeably beautiful, forever smiling with the same sad flowering mouth. Yeah, they seem to be collectibles, but you also have to use ammo for them. Yeah, that used one of my ammo. Can I... Are the cigarettes gonna be the... Oh, the cigarettes are gonna be the save item, aren't they? Item boxes. Limited item boxes can store items until you need them. Each item box is connected to each other, so they'll share the same item. To only carry what you need. Hi. So, I'm guessing, since I'm here, is this not a save room? Can I go to the fireplace? Recently tended to. Why am I so... Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. Here, real quick. Let's do this. Yeah, because I have no idea what any of these are for right now. Let's do that save again. Okay. We have our first save room. Yippee! Okay. So now we can go... Actually, hold on. More correctly, the lock that's out here is... Yeah, 4 letters. Is it woke? It's not woke. Person comes back to office. What's all these saves? Deletes? No! All right, hold on. I want to go see if I can put the piece that I have No, it wasn't here. Hello, darkness. Okay. Chat, you're gonna tell me, right, if those mannequins move? You're gonna tell me, right? Right? Totally? Oh my god. Okay, I can't put it on there until I have all three put together, I guess. Raggle fraggle. Raggle fraggle. No! Oh, you bitch. Stevie's leaving. Get your ass back here, boy! Oh my god, the camera angle's changing. Fuck you, Gorb. Heartbeat monitor? Janie, no! Because I also don't know how much longer we're gonna go. Somebody just got home. I was not expecting anybody to come home this early. Okay, so we need to check the map real quick. Foyer? What do you mean we haven't done everything upstairs? Okay, so maybe the answer's upstairs? Hold on. Oh, I was trying to see if that was something, but it doesn't look like it. I think it's just that one door, but... go back. That is not what I wanted. I wanted tab. There we go. Files. Guides, no. Forum post. Oh, we didn't get to read this earlier. Ray. Did I skip through this by accident? Tricon plants? Oh. Looking to see if there's any like keywords in here that jump out at me. And then driver's license. Samantha Mastelna. 78. Eyes, bruh. Bro. Pleasure Beach. I'm looking to see if there's any other, like... Could 12:15 also be a... what do you call it? An effing sex? Damn, that's kind of sad. Okay. Where am I? Who am I? Light. Light, 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 light. Spam. Spam. Big fast chat. Flash. Safe room was this one? Okay. Okay. Alright, chat, I got bad news. I got bad news. Somebody's home. We're gonna call it here. We're gonna have to call it here. Quick, snooze the ads! Snooze the ads! I can do it. Yeah. I know. I hate doing that. I was late and we got to end early. It's all right. I'm sorry, guys. We will maybe consider crueler violence. Okay. Okay. But we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. I may even start early tomorrow. I don't know just yet. Yeah, it's Mondays. It's Mondays. We'll see what happens. Regardless, we're gonna play this again on Wednesday, so don't worry. We will get more gameplay of HeartWorm in. I also have some other games that I think are gonna be interesting. I woke up this morning to an email. That we will be playing next week for a game called, where is it? The Demons told me to make this game. It's apparently a game where you play the voices inside someone's head. People! I know, people. It's the worst. All right, guys. I will figure out who we're going to raid. Give me just a minute. Again, I'm sorry for doing such a short stream. Who is live? We may go raid Tree Kicker, who's playing Trash Goblin. Wait, is Trash Goblin the one that's like crazy claymation? No, that's not the one I was thinking it was. Shinobi. All right, I know who we're raiding. We're raiding Azura. She's playing Resident Evil 4. Oh my god, you dorks. All right. Gonna wait for the parade to end. All right, guys. We'll be back tomorrow, noon CDT, if not then earlier. We may do something in the Discord tonight since it's earlier than 3 o'clock. We will see. I will put a post in the Discord if you aren't in the Discord. I misspelled that. I recommend joining it. No. All right. Until then, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for enjoying the show. Go give Azora some love. I will catch you tomorrow. Later. 3 a.m., 3 p.m. I just realized the raid never started. I am so stupid. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's the same way I typed it before. Oh, no, I put Azura the Azura. Duh.